Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Brea. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we're immediately picking up after the revelations of last episode about Isaiah and Gavin being the same person. Well, in the past, you have Eve still trying to wrap her head around it, trying to figure it all out, and obviously she explains it to everyone, to Levi and Ty about what's going on. It's like, right, we got to find Isaiah. So obviously Levi goes back to get Sam, who also brings Riley, because Riley's like, I might be reconsidering medical school, but also it's like, right, she wants to keep an eye on her dad and make sure he's okay after, coming off his medication the way he has. So she's like, I was going to come regardless, and I'm not going to take no for an answer. So there's that. But also Levi was like, hey, Joshua, you should come along too. So they go back to the village, and I love the whole situation of having to explain it. Josh was like, what? No way, you're saying that little kid? It's like, yeah, but she's like, when I look in his eyes, I see it in just the familiarity of it. So Aldrich breaks it down like, right, you need to get him to, get to Topanga. There's a mountain up there. A portal is going to open. It's going to take you to 1988. He has to get through that because we need to complete the loop. Because if he doesn't go back in time, you will never meet him. Your children. I love she didn't even say we bring up the cease to exist. She's like, no, they'll get sick and they will die. I'm like, that's dark. Because most things you'll think is like, oh, well, I mean, it's fading from existence. Other than freaking out, is it painful, or do you just cease to exist? Instances we've seen in time travel stuff, whether it be, spoilers, Legion, or whether it be, Back to the Future, it doesn't seem like it's painful. It's just like you're freaking out, like, oh my god, I'm disappearing, but doesn't seem painful. It's just crazy that she's like, you'll start feeling sick and you will die. I guess you'll cease to exist afterwards, but you're going to die first. I'm like, that's harsh, but it makes sense. I mean, you need to complete the loop. So it's like, yeah, both your children are going to be sick and die if you don't do this. So Josh is like, cool. So not only did I just find out that little kid is actually my dad, on top of that, there's a chance I might die because if we don't get him through that portal. But he was like, no, I'm not going to let that happen. We're going to find Silas. We're going to get Isaiah, and we're going to put him through that portal, and everything's going to be fine. She's like, right. And she goes in mom mode. It's like, no, I'm going to protect my children. I'm going to protect you and your sister. I got this. And so they end up tracking down Isaiah and Silas, which Aldrich still refuses to give answers of how she knows what she knows. Because we know that Gavin is originally from our world, yet he got brought here and then he got brought back. So the question is, what makes him so special? Aldrich even said this line later on where it's like, oh, you want me to help Josh? You want me to take care of Josh? That's what I'm trying to do too. I'm like, are you trying to specifically save Josh? Because is Gavin special, but also whatever his specialness is, did he pass it on to Josh, or is Josh the end result? You need Gavin to go back in time because whatever it is gives birth to Josh, and Josh is the special. I don't know, or whether that was just leverage Aldrich is using to be like, yeah, you want to help Josh, you'll help me. So that might just be all that is to it. I don't know, because she has not let us know how she knows, but it's got to be that whatever this is, they've been a part of this. They've known all about this sinkhole situation because they've probably been through this before. And the way Aldrich explains it later on, it's like, yeah, everyone thinks that time is this one-way linear line. It's like, no, it's more like a circle. Literally all of time is happening at the same time. So while 2021 exists, so does 1988. So does 2018, for example, and stuff like that, using those dates specifically, or 60, was it 1 or 67, whatever the case may be. It's it's all happening at once. So that's such an interesting thing, because it's how could we, because the portal that brought them here was from 2021. How could there already be a portal from 19? Portals have been popping up from different points in time. We've seen that stuff from all over the place has been dropping in. That's Scott's side of the story. He sees a cow, but no one thinks he's serious because, well, he's the pothead. He's the oh, you're smoking, so you probably imagined it. But he's like, yeah, but if we can find that cow could be a source of milk, and we could use it. He's like, hell, we could even make ice cream. But Lily convinces Veronica, because Veronica, like, it's like, because Lily hasn't turned her back on her. It's like, no, like, I realize, like, you're just, because Lily realizes too, it's like, right, you're just as much a part of this as me. Like, everyone knows that you were taken as well. And it's like, just give them time, show them that, because like everyone looks at her with distrust because they're like, oh, you're kidnapping this little girl you've been claiming to be your sister. But it's like, no, like, just let them know who you really are. Like, you are a good person. Lily's always seen that good side of Veronica. It's like, you've always been good to me, so let them see that good side of you as well. So at the end of it all, it's like, right, so Veronica trying to, show like, nah, I am good, I'm going to help out. She goes along with Scott, and along the way, she opens up about her story. Her mom wasn't around a lot. Her and the stepfather got into a lot of arguments, so she ran away when she was 14. And that's when Aaron found her. And she was at such a young age. I think, being taken in by someone who also, like, fills your head with, like, right, God has a purpose for all of us. So that's why she went along with taking Lily, because, it's like, oh, like, I guess it's like these children, she probably was convinced by Aaron, like, oh, like, this little girl, like, needs us to save her. Like, people won't understand, like, but, like, for her, she was so young at the time, he warped her mind. Like, she was alone in the world, and the person that offered her shelter, he took advantage of that. He took advantage of hers, because she was with him a couple years before they got Lily, so he had enough time to kind of brainwash her. It created a Stockholm Syndrome type of situation, especially because she had no one, and he filled that void. And for the longest time, she felt like, yeah, God had a purpose for us all. And now she doesn't really know. She doesn't know what she believes, But luckily, she was able to, because she grew up on a farm, because I think she was probably referencing like where she actually grew up and not her time with Aaron. She knew exactly where to find the cow. Because it's like, yeah, they were both trying to break people's stereotypes of them. And like, yeah, people just think you're the pothead. Like, I mean, to be fair, Scott has been on, like, you should listen to Scott, because Scott's been on top of everything that's going on here. So I'm like, why would you disregard him? He's the one that figured out a lot of stuff, and he knows a lot about the landscape, even to know, like, yeah, this shouldn't be here. A cow shouldn't be here. He's like, a cow didn't come about until, like, what was he saying? Like, it was like way after this time, so it's like there shouldn't be a cow here. So another thing that fell through a sinkhole potentially. But when it was all said and done, together they were able to find the cow, and it changed a lot of people's opinions. Just like, I mean, because even Eve kind of talks about it later on. She's still dealing with the aftermath of like, right, I stranded a lot of people here, so people have forgiven me, but there's still like, I think that tension is still in the air of like, right, people aren't going to come to my aid, because it's like, oh, you talking about the lady that stranded us? I mean, I know we're supposed to all be copacetic with her, but not really. So ultimately, it is interesting because, like, I think Silas, circling back, because I'm all over the place, I apologize, but Silas does seem like he is legitimately trying to help Isaiah, that he does believe what he is doing is right. He's trying to protect Gavin from, like, I think some harsh reality, some harsh destiny that he knows, and maybe that's the whole reason. He knew what Gavin's life was going to be and what it would entail, so to prevent all that, he took him to the past and probably tried to hide him away, hoping to probably potentially, he's trying to probably break the loop, but everything is predetermined. Like, it's already happened. It's just him. But I think he was probably hoping that he could come back here and break the loop. But if he does, he'll probably, time will change and he'll be creating an alternate timeline, or maybe it'll kind of create a paradox in its own right. I mean, there's a lot that can go wrong with this timey-wimey stuff. So, but he still won't explain, like, what's going on. And even Isaiah's asking questions, but he's like, no, I'll protect you. And Josh ended up saving him, though. But it's not until he locked eyes with him. He's like, I'm just checking to see if you're okay. But he sees what his mom saw. It's like, wow, you really are. And when they check the wound on his hand, it's like, right, that's the same scar Dad has in the exact same spot. So now Josh does believe it's like, this kid is my dad. And it's like, I think it was actually really interesting when they're walking, and it's like, oh, like, yeah, my grandpa just wants to protect me. He's like, no, I get it. My mom says the same thing a lot, too. What about your dad? He's like, yeah, he wasn't always there for me or my mom. He's like, oh, but he's here now. It's like, oh, Levi's not my dad. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought he was. I'm like, why would you think that? It's like, because I saw him holding injured. Like, well, in Josh's defense, he didn't jump on that information immediately. He was dealing with it, processing, but it's not until he was alone with Levi that he brought up. But of course you're going to be like, because it's like, despite the issues his mom and dad have, it's like, it's still, like, which is hypocritical. It's like, you have issues with your dad, but then you find out, wait, like, I guess it's like, my dad not being there is one thing. I understand why my mom would, like, need someone's comfort. That still sucks that it had to be you, because Levi is family to him. Your uncle Levi. So it's like, it's betrayal. It's almost like their mom hooking up with their dad's brother. Like, it's that bad, essentially, because like they're best friends. They're almost like brothers. So it stings a little, but it's also like, what about you? He was like, I'm sorry. It's just like. And then Josh was like, wait, I thought this was something that happened recently. Like, how long had this been going on? He's like, it was for months, but we ended it last year. And it's like, yeah, because Josh was kind of thinking like, because I guess he thought this was a recent development. And I guess, well, no more lies and stuff like that. So, but I guess it's like he was hoping, you probably were hoping like, oh, you probably would have been better for you just to think that was a recent thing. But it's like, no, if we're going to be out and open, 100% honest, I might as well tell you the truth, because Silas ended up capturing them later, and now their lives are being threatened. I'm curious what Silas is going to do. Like, if they present the information, it's like, Isaiah, I'm his son. If you're Isaiah's dad, you're my his grandpa. That makes you my great grandpa. Like, it's like, wait, what? Like, that might change things. It's like, if you don't let Isaiah go through there, me and my sister will die. Like, can you have that on your conscience? And that might be a conversation we see next episode, where it is to think of like, how much is Silas willing to, for him, it's like their deaths will be for the betterment, because whatever it is, all of this is going to lead to some suffering in Gavin's future that I think he's trying to prevent. Like, something's happening, because once again, like, they're tied to all of this in some shape or form. Like him, Silas, Aldridge, and Gavin. Which, speaking of Gavin, present day, they're trying to talk to what's her name, Ella. And she doesn't believe them, but like Gavin brings up everything. It's like, right, you've been having these visions, right? And it's like, yeah, it started with the La Brea sinkhole. So the sinkhole triggered, like, because he was in the proximity of the Mojave sinkhole, that's why his memories triggered then. Hers started now because this is her first time in proximity of one of the sinkholes. It triggers something in their memories. And so she's only been remembering for the past week, whereas Gavin's been remembering for the past 3 years. But it's like, yeah, you're throwing a lot at her. Not only what you can't, because it's not even like, oh, I'm having visions about the sinkhole and stuff like that. It's like, no, I'm having memories because I'm originally from that world, and so are you. And she's like, no, I'm not. Like, you're crazy. Like, she doesn't want to believe him. So from the dig site, they find a rock that has like a firefly or a butterfly. No, not butterfly, Jesus. A dragonfly or something on it, and he brings it back and is like, right, this is something you were painting, and this is from then. It's from dated back 10,000 BC. And upon seeing it, we see her playing with it when she was younger. I was like, this is it, isn't it? And then we see her turn to Veronica. I was like, I knew it. I knew they were setting it up to be Lily, that she was going to be Lily. I knew it. That's wild. But the reason why I knew it was because I brought it up last episode. They went out of their way, and when she introduced herself to Isaac, she's like, hi, I'm Lily. And it was like, it was someone like young that was with him, so I figured it had to be her. Dude, I was like, dude, that's so crazy. Yeah. I was like, holy crap. That's actually kind of sad too, because that means she gets ripped away from Veronica. She doesn't remember, like, that. The sad thing is, that means she doesn't remember Veronica either. That's sad. Like, she grew up, like, her and Veronica are good, but that means her and Veronica get separated because she has to grow up without Veronica. But if Veronica returns present day, then it's like, wait, I remember you, Veronica. It's, dude, it's going to be wild. It's going to be insane if that happens, because it's going to be like, wait, Lily? It's like, yeah, it's me. Like, I had to grow up in 88 alone. I mean, to be fair, Veronica's going to know, because Aldridge, like, she locked eyes with Lily and went to talk to Lily. She's like, I need you to hold on to this. And we see present day that Lily has it. So, once again, it all plays out. So I'm wondering, what exactly did Aldridge say to Lily to convince her? Like, maybe she's like, if you do this, everyone's going to be able to go home. If you do this, you have to do this. Or maybe Aldridge doesn't tell her that Lily has to go through the portal, just that she has to hold on to this. I don't know. I'm curious what she said to her, but all she said was, like, she tells Veronica, like, oh, we have to get to Topanga now. So, dude, there's just so much happening at once. It is wild, dude. And then on top of that, obviously, because Aldridge was there, she's like, yeah, there will be another, like, there's a portal to 1988, but it's closing tomorrow, so you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to go there or not. Obviously, she's lying to them, because, like, obviously we end up finding out, like, looking at the map Lily has, they've mapped out all the previous incidents. So The earliest one we have mapped out is 1960. What was it, like the 1960 one, and then the 88 one, and then 2018, then 2021. There's going to be one, and I forgot how long ago they said it was going to be. Like, I think they said like this there's a sinkhole opening up in Seattle tomorrow on October 6th. So it showcases like, so maybe this is the last ditch effort, but Aldrich knows there's going to be one to go open for present day, but she's not going to say anything to everyone because she needs them to get to Topanga. She needs to manipulate the situation. And so the question is, like, how many people are actually going to go? Like, because you have Bill and Tony thinking about it, but it's like, yeah, it took me 20 years to tell my dad me being gay. You want me to go back in time where I'd have to hide who I am? But then it's like, right, there's the luxury of like electricity, and you know, his husband's like, yeah, and glasses, so eyewear and stuff like that. So maybe it's worth the risk. And now everyone has to figure out whether they're willing to go 30 plus years into the past from their present, the past, because some of them were like, that's a complicated thing too, because once again, it's a paradox thing too, because it's like, right, there's a baby, some of those people, there might be baby versions of them existing in 88. So it's like, you have to avoid that. It's like, you know, try not to do the typical time travel thing of like, oh, it's 1988. Because even Scott was like, yeah, I'd love to be able to watch, even though the notion of being able to watch Die Hard in theaters is pretty dope. He's like, he wants to stay behind because there's so much to this place he has to figure out, and he notices that the cow has like a branding on it, so I think it's a very specific time period. So I think that cow might be from present day, because maybe timeline wise the portal's technically already opened on their side that leads to Seattle. Maybe not, I don't know, but it presents a lot of questions. I mean, once again, like, we've been just seeing like a lot of stuff, and a lot of people from different places and times have been dumped in, and it's like, this place isn't just like the place in time, it's become a smorgasbord of time meeting in this one spot. It's almost like the void from Loki, but a little different, because this is an actual place in time. It's 10,000 BC, and not that being just I mean, maybe we never really went into the void. We know it's a dumping ground for everything that got like deleted, but it's like, other than that, like, everything that got pruned ended up there. But other than that, we don't know like whether or not like the void is an actual place, like whether it's an actual, well, we know it exists outside of time and stuff like that. At least like He Who Remains existed at the end of time, that whole thing. If you've seen Loki, you know what I'm talking about. But it's like, that doesn't seem like it's a very specific place, or like, you know, it's kind of, well, I guess it might be kind of like or am I thinking, no, the other place I was thinking of is like the Vanishing Point. Like, I'm curious, like, it's because Vanishing Point exists outside of time and space in the DC universe, specifically in DC's Legends of Tomorrow, but just in the Arrowverse in general. But this, like I said, this is a very specific point in time, so it's not necessarily a dumping ground, but I'm curious why this specific area, like, why does every portal connect to this specific point in time? Maybe it is like a special, significant, I don't know, maybe it is an amalgamation of a lot of different stuff coming together. Like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like the beginning and the end. Like, you know, a lot of Ouroboros stuff has been coming up lately, so, you know, and once again, that kind of fits into the whole, like, time is all happening at, you know, what's the ending, what's the beginning, you know? It all kind of feeds into itself, like the serpent in its own tail. But we also had Ty and Paula kissing, which I'm like, not surprised. He's like, oh, I'm surprised by this, and she's like, me too. I'm like, I'm not. I was kind of hoping for it. It seemed like after your time bonding together that something was going to spark there, but it's also like, right, life is constantly reminding him he only has a limited amount of time, so he constantly gets nosebleeds, and I'm like, what's going to happen on that front? And obviously Eve leaves, she leaves Isaiah behind, because it's like, right, they'll be back soon to make sure that you get to that, get to Topanga. But she's like, I have to go protect my son, not just your son, our son. But, you know, it's like, she tried to give him as much information while not giving him a lot about his future of like, right, I know what your life is going to be, and it's going to be great, but it's like, I need you to go through that portal. But he's like, no, I don't want to leave my family behind. Like, this is all he's ever known, and you want me, and that's the tough thing of like, right, Because especially because he won't remember any of this too, so that's the most heartbreaking thing. Same thing with Lily. It's like, despite the complications of like her original family, she won't remember. She won't remember Veronica either. So, but her memories are starting to come back. So, that's gonna be the sad thing of like Lily's gonna grow up not around Veronica, you know. So they're going, you know, despite them being in a good place, them having each other, they're going to grow up apart. So when they do eventually reunite present day, which I think they will, it's going to be interesting to see what those conversations are like. But I'm so excited to see where everything takes us. The next episode is the season finale, so it's going to be wild to see how the season wraps up. We've only got one thing out of Silas's book, and that's the page that Aldrich gave to Lily. I'm like, what the hell else is in that book? I guess it's an account of everything, maybe? Because I'm like, did Aldrich not know where the other portals were going to be? Like, where the one in Seattle, did she not know where that was going to be, and that's why she gave it to Lily? Or is it because it's like, right, you needed something solid because, like, you knew her memories were going to disappear the moment she goes through the portal, so you needed her to have something on her that could be used to point them in the right direction when the time came. But it's like, what are you and Silas up to? Like, how do you know what you know? Like, who are you people? It's definitely going to be interesting to see how the season finale wraps this all up. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.